The sun was starting to dip behind the distant hills, painting the ranch in golden light. Dust swirled gently in the warm breeze, and the rancher, Daniel, wiped the sweat from his brow as he leaned against the wooden fence. His life had always been quiet, filled with the rhythm of caring for his land and animals. There was comfort in routine, in the predictable cycle of chores, and in the peace that came with solitude. That evening, however, the stillness of the ranch was broken by a distant sound, the creak of the gate swinging open. Daniel straightened, hand instinctively moving toward the old rifle leaning in the corner of the barn. He wasn't expecting anyone. Visitors were rare here, miles away from the nearest town. A woman appeared in the fading light, her clothes dusty and torn, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and desperation. She looked as if she had run for miles. She hesitated a moment at the edge of the yard, glancing nervously over her shoulder. Then she stepped forward. "Please," she said, her voice trembling, "I need your help. You have to end it now." Daniel furrowed his brow, unsure if he had heard her correctly. He leaned on the fence, studying her. "And what?" he asked cautiously. "You'll have to explain." She swallowed hard and took a step closer, her hands trembling slightly. "There's something buried under your land. Something that shouldn't be there. I've tried to stop it, but I can't. You have to help me before it's too late." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. He had spent decades on this ranch, and nothing, no matter how strange, had ever scared him. Yet something in her voice, in the urgency of her eyes, made him uneasy. There was no pretense, no drama, just raw fear. He nodded slowly. "All right," he said. "Show me where." The woman, whose name was Emily, led him across the ranch toward a stretch of land near an old oak tree. The soil was soft here, and the ground looked uneven, as if someone had tried to dig before and given up. She stopped and pointed at a spot near the base of the tree. "It's here," she said quietly. "I saw it once years ago. My family, we thought it was safe, but it wasn't. Please, don't make me go back." Daniel looked at the earth. It seemed ordinary, but he had learned long ago that appearances could be deceiving. He crouched down, running a hand over the soil. There was something strange about it, like it had been disturbed repeatedly but not naturally. "Okay," he said. "We'll start here. But I need to know everything. Tell me exactly what I'm looking for." Emily nodded, biting her lip. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "It's hard to explain. You might not believe me, but it's alive in a way, or it used to be. Something that shouldn't exist. Something that could hurt anyone who finds it." Daniel swallowed. He had faced storms, wild animals, and even a few rustlers in his years, but this, whatever it was, felt different. He felt the tension tighten in his chest, a warning he hadn't felt since a near tornado tore through his land years ago. "Show me," he said firmly. Together, they began to dig. Emily's hands shook as she helped loosen the soil, and Daniel worked steadily, sweat mixing with the dirt on his forearms. The deeper they went, the heavier the air seemed to become. There was a stillness in the world around them that felt wrong, like the land itself was holding its breath. After an hour of labor, the first sign of something unusual appeared. A strange, dark shape glimmered beneath the soil, partially exposed. Daniel paused and stared at it, brushing the dirt away carefully. His fingers trembled slightly, not out of fear, but because he had never seen anything like it. Emily gasped. Don't touch it too much," she whispered, stepping back. "It knows we're here. It knows someone is digging." Daniel looked at her, confused. "Knows it's what exactly?" She shook her head. "I can't explain properly. You wouldn't understand yet. Just be careful, please." The rancher's curiosity battled with a growing sense of dread. His instincts told him to stop, to leave the land alone, but he couldn't. There was something compelling about the secret buried beneath the earth, something that demanded to be seen. As the sun disappeared behind the hills, shadows stretched long across the ranch. Daniel stood and looked at Emily, her face pale in the twilight. "We'll find the truth," he said, his voice steady. "But you need to tell me everything, or this could go very wrong." She nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I will," she said softly. "But you have to promise me you won't do anything reckless. It's dangerous, more dangerous than you think." Daniel swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her words. He had never been one to shy away from hard work or danger, but there was a cold, creeping fear in his chest that he couldn't ignore. He nodded solemnly. "I promise. We do this carefully. They worked until darkness settled fully over the ranch. The stars began to appear overhead, tiny points of light in a vast sky, indifferent to the fear and mystery unfolding below. Emily shivered, hugging herself, and Daniel laid a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Tomorrow," he said, "we dig more. We'll uncover whatever is here and deal with it. Together." Emily nodded, a fragile hope flickering in her eyes. She didn't know if the truth would save them or destroy them, but for the first time in years she felt a small measure of relief. She wasn't alone anymore. Daniel looked at the earth where they had dug. The soil freshly turned, and felt an uneasy awareness. The ranch had always held secrets, wild animals, hidden springs, old cabins, but this was something else. Something hidden deep. Something that had waited for years, untouched and forbidden. And now, it was waking. The next morning, the ranch was quiet except for the soft clatter of Daniel's boots on the wooden floor and the distant lowing of cattle. The sun had just begun to rise, spilling soft light over the fields. But the beauty of the morning did little to ease the tension between Daniel and Emily. Both were haunted by the memory of the previous evening and the strange shape they had uncovered beneath the oak tree. Daniel moved with purpose, grabbing shovels and tools while Emily followed, her steps hesitant and uneven. Her eyes constantly darted to the trees and the ground, as if expecting something to emerge at any moment. "Are you sure this is safe?" she asked, her voice low. Daniel paused and looked at her. "Safe," he repeated. "Nothing about this will be safe until we know what we're dealing with. But I promise we'll be careful. Step by step. That's all we can do." Emily nodded, her fingers trembling as she held onto the shovel. She didn't fully trust herself to do this alone, and she had never expected to rely on someone like Daniel, a man she barely knew. Yet, something about his calm presence made her feel slightly less afraid. They reached the spot under the oak tree, the soil freshly turned from the previous day. The shadow of the massive branches stretched across the ground, casting dark patterns that seemed to move with the breeze. Daniel knelt, running his hands over the disturbed earth. "Whatever it is," he muttered, "it's bigger than we thought." Emily swallowed hard, her gaze fixed on the soil. "I saw it once, a long time ago. My family tried to bury it, to hide it, but it didn't stay hidden. People shouldn't know about it. It's dangerous." Daniel straightened and looked at her, his curiosity growing. "Dangerous how? Are we talking about animals, traps, or something else?" Emily shook her head. "It's not like anything you've seen before. It moves in ways that don't make sense. You feel it watching you even when you can't see it. That's why I came to you. I couldn't handle it alone." Daniel's pulse quickened. He had faced many challenges in his life, storms, wild animals, even human threats. But the fear in Emily's voice suggested something different. Something beyond the natural world, he knew. They began digging carefully, loosening the soil inch by inch. Daniel's hands were steady, his movements practiced and strong, but Emily's were hesitant. Every time the shovel struck something hard, she flinched. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher in the sky and sweat ran down Daniel's face. Yet the deeper they dug, the more Daniel realized that this was no ordinary object or animal. The soil beneath the oak tree was filled with fragments, broken tools, strange shapes, and pieces that looked out of place for a ranch. "Look at this," Daniel said, holding up a small, dark fragment covered in dirt. "This isn't from around here." "Where did it come from?" Emily's eyes widened. "I told you, it doesn't belong. People tried to hide it. They thought no one would find it, but it's alive, somehow. You'll see if we dig enough." Daniel examined the fragment closely. It was smooth, hard, and strangely cold despite the heat of the sun. He placed it carefully on a cloth he had laid out, considering what it might be. Whatever it was, it had been buried with purpose, and someone had gone to great lengths to keep it hidden. Emily leaned closer, her face pale. "We have to be careful. If anyone else finds out we're digging, they might try to stop us. I don't know what they'll do, but it won't be good." Daniel nodded, the seriousness of the situation settling over him like a shadow. "I understand, but we can't leave it buried either. Not now. We have to know the truth." As they dug deeper, the shape beneath the soil became clearer. It was larger than Daniel expected, partially covered in old dirt and roots. Its form was strange, unlike any animal or object he had seen. He paused, brushing the soil away carefully with his hands, revealing a dark, smooth surface that seemed almost alive in the sunlight. Emily's eyes filled with tears. "It's awake," she whispered. "It knows we're here, please. Don't make it angry." Daniel looked at her, uncertainty mixing with determination.
"We won't, I promise."
"We just need to see it, to understand it. Then we can decide what to do next." They continued, working slowly and methodically. The tension was thick, each sound. An animal in the distance, the rustle of leaves making them both jump. The deeper they went, the more they realized that this was no ordinary discovery. Something about it was unnatural, something that had been hidden for a reason. Finally, after hours of careful digging, a large portion of the object was exposed. Daniel stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. His eyes widened as he took in the full sight. It was a strange structure, part organic and part something else, smooth and dark, with shapes that seemed to shift slightly as the light hit them. Emily's hands flew to her mouth. I told you it wasn't normal. We can't let anyone see this, not yet, not until we know what it is." Daniel nodded slowly, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He had faced storms, wild animals, and even human threats, but nothing like this. The object beneath the oak tree was beyond anything he had ever imagined, and yet there was a sense of significance about it. It felt important, like it had a story to tell, something the world wasn't ready to see. The rest of the day passed in tense silence. Daniel worked carefully, uncovering more pieces and examining them with growing fascination. Emily stayed close, guiding him, warning him, and occasionally stepping back when fear overcame her. As evening approached, they finally paused, both exhausted. The object was more exposed now, though still partially buried. Its strange shape, smooth surfaces, and subtle movements in the shadows made Daniel realize that this was just the beginning. Whatever it was, it had been hidden for a reason, and discovering it was only the first step. Emily looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and relief. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I didn't think anyone would believe me or help me. I didn't know what to do anymore." Daniel nodded. "We'll figure it out together, but we need to be careful. Whatever this is, it's bigger than both of us, and we can't take it lightly." That night, as the stars began to appear over the ranch, Daniel couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the object beneath the oak tree, its strange presence and the fear in Emily's eyes. Something had been buried there for a reason, something powerful and mysterious, and he knew that uncovering it would change their lives forever. He didn't yet know how, but he felt it deep in his bones. The ranch he had known all his life had just become a place of secrets, fear, and discovery, and there was no turning back. Aniel and Emily had begun their excavation. The night had been long and restless. Daniel couldn't stop thinking about what they had uncovered. Even in sleep, the strange shape beneath the soil lingered in his mind like a shadow he couldn't shake. Emily arrived early, carrying a small bag with water and a few tools. Her face was pale, but there was determination in her eyes. She didn't speak much. Words seemed inadequate for the fear and urgency she carried. Daniel greeted her with a nod. "Ready?" he asked. Emily swallowed and nodded. "I am. We need to finish this. We need to know the truth." Together they returned to the oak tree. The exposed object glimmered faintly in the morning light. It had an unusual texture, smooth, dark, almost alive in its stillness. The closer Daniel looked, the more he realized it was unlike anything he had ever seen. There were subtle curves, almost as if it had been designed with care, yet it seemed natural at the same time. Daniel knelt and brushed away more soil. A faint vibration ran through his hands, barely noticeable, but it made him pause. Emily noticed his hesitation. "Don't stop now," she whispered. "We're so close." Daniel nodded and continued. The deeper he dug, the more the object revealed itself. Small fragments of something organic appeared, intertwined with shapes that seemed mechanical or artificial. It was impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. The sense of something watching them returned, subtle but unmistakable, sending shivers down his spine. Emily's voice trembled as she spoke. "I saw it once before, years ago, in another place. My family tried to bury it to hide it from people. They said it was dangerous, that it could change everything if anyone found it." Daniel paused, looking at her with concern. "Change everything? How?" "What do you mean?" She shook her head. "I don't know exactly. All I know is that it has power. Not the kind you see or touch, but influence. People act differently around it. They hide things, they lie, they fear it." Daniel considered her words, feeling a chill despite the warm morning air. He had faced storms, wild animals, even thieves, but Emily's description hinted at something far beyond any danger he had known. Hours passed as they dug carefully. Emily helped guide him, pointing to areas where the soil seemed weaker, where fragments appeared closer to the surface. Slowly, they uncovered a larger portion of the buried object. It had a smooth, almost metallic shine with irregular curves and strange lines that seemed intentional, as if someone had crafted it deliberately. Daniel stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. This isn't natural. Someone put this here. Someone wanted it hidden. Emily nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. Yes, and that someone... They didn't want anyone to find it. That's why I came to you. I couldn't let it stay buried. It had to be dealt with. Daniel looked at the object, trying to imagine what it could be. It was larger than he had expected, partially alive in some way he couldn't explain. The strange vibrations persisted, subtle but real, as if it was responding to their presence. He crouched and placed a hand on it lightly. It felt cold, almost unnervingly smooth, but also warm in certain places, like it had a life of its own. He pulled back, startled. Emily gasped. It knows we're here, she said softly. It knows someone is digging. That's why it moves, slowly, subtly, to protect itself. Daniel frowned. Protect itself? Emily, what is this? I've seen a lot in my life, but nothing like this. Are we dealing with an animal? Or something else? Emily shook her head. It's neither. Not exactly, it's complicated. Something human touched it once or tried to control it. That's why it's buried. That's why it's dangerous. It's not meant to be found. Daniel felt a weight in his chest. He had been curious from the beginning, but now the fear and mystery pressed down on him. Whatever lay beneath the oak tree was not just unusual, it was extraordinary, and it had consequences that they couldn't yet understand. Suddenly, the soil shifted slightly under his hand. Daniel froze. The object moved imperceptibly, but enough to make him step back. Emily's eyes widened in alarm. I told you, she whispered, clutching her chest. It doesn't like being uncovered. You have to be careful. If it fully wakes, I don't know what could happen. Daniel took a deep breath, steadying himself. We'll be careful. We just need to see it, understand it. Then we can decide what to do. They continued their careful excavation, revealing more of the object. Pieces of it were strange, smooth, dark, and reflective in the sunlight. Some sections seemed almost alive, moving subtly as if responding to their touch or presence. Other fragments looked crafted, deliberate, with shapes that made no sense to Daniel but hinted at intelligence behind their creation. Emily watched him closely, fear and hope mixed in her expression. It's been hidden for a reason, she said. People tried to bury it to protect themselves. Or maybe to protect the world. I don't know which. But we can't stop now. We have to know the truth. Daniel nodded. The more they uncovered, the more he realized the gravity of their discovery. This was no ordinary ranch secret. This was something that had waited for years, hidden carefully beneath the soil, and now it was awakening. Hours passed, and the sun began to descend again, casting long shadows across the land. The object was nearly fully exposed, its strange shape undeniable. Daniel and Emily stood side by side, looking at it, both exhausted and in awe. I've never seen anything like this, Daniel said quietly. Whatever it is, it's alive somehow, and it's been waiting for someone to find it. Emily nodded. That's why I came to you. I couldn't face it alone. I needed someone strong, someone who could help me do what needed to be done. Daniel looked at her, understanding the weight of her words. Whatever lay beneath the oak tree was dangerous, strange, and mysterious, but it also needed them. Together, they had uncovered it. Together, they would face whatever came next. The wind rustled the leaves above them, carrying a whisper that neither of them could understand. It was a warning, a reminder, and a promise. The bee. The next day, the ranch was quiet, almost unnaturally so. Even the wind seemed hesitant, rustling the leaves with a soft whisper that made Daniel's skin crawl. He and Emily returned to the oak tree, the ground beneath it freshly turned from the work of the previous days. The object they had uncovered now lay mostly exposed, and its strange dark surface gleamed in the morning sun. Emily hesitated at the edge of the digging site. I don't know if we're ready for this, she whispered, her voice tight with fear. It's not just strange. It has a presence. Something that watches. Something that remembers. Daniel nodded slowly. I know, but we have to see it. We have to understand it. We can't leave it half buried and half hidden. Not after everything you told me. Together they knelt beside the object. Daniel ran his hands gently over its smooth surface, feeling a subtle vibration. It was alive in some way, different from any animal, more deliberate, as if it had a consciousness of its own. Emily's eyes were wide with fear. It knows we're here, she said. It can feel us. I've felt it for years, and now, it's awake. Daniel swallowed, his mind racing. He had expected something unusual, maybe even strange, but the reality was beyond comprehension. Pieces of the object were intricate, almost like a puzzle, and some sections seemed to pulse faintly, responding to their presence. I don't know what this is, he admitted, but it's not just an object or an animal. It's something in between, something powerful. Emily nodded. That's why my family tried to hide it. They didn't want anyone to know. They said it could change people, change everything around it. That's why it was buried, to protect everyone. Daniel looked around, noticing how quiet the ranch had become. Even the birds were still. The air felt heavy, almost alive. He realized that whatever this object was, it influenced its surroundings in subtle ways. It wasn't just a thing buried in the earth. It was something that could affect life itself. As they continued examining it, a piece of the soil shifted, revealing a deeper section that had been hidden. Daniel leaned closer, brushing away dirt carefully. The new section was darker, smoother, and strange patterns ran across it, almost like symbols or markings. Emily gasped. Those are markings. My family. They never wanted anyone to see them. They said it would reveal too much. Daniel studied the lines carefully. They were precise, deliberate, and unlike anything he had seen before. Whoever made this, they wanted it to be found one day, he said slowly. It's a message, maybe. Or instructions. Something important. Emily shivered. Or a warning. My family always said it was dangerous, not just to people, but to anyone who disturbed it. They said it remembers and it reacts. Daniel felt a chill. The idea that this object could remember, react, or even judge their actions was unsettling. He had faced storms, wild animals, and human threats, but this was different. This was something beyond understanding. Something alive in a way that didn't follow the normal rules of life. Suddenly, the object shifted again. This time, the movement was more noticeable. It rose slightly, subtle but deliberate, like it was responding to their touch. Daniel stepped back, astonished, while Emily's face went pale. I told you, she whispered. It reacts. It knows you're here. And it's not. Pleased, Daniel's mind raced. What do we do? He asked, feeling a mix of fear and responsibility. Do we leave it? Do we cover it again? Emily shook her head. No, we can't. If we leave it, someone else will eventually find it. We have to deal with it, understand it, and make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. That's why I came to you. I couldn't do this alone, Daniel nodded. The weight of the situation pressed down on him. Whatever this object was, it wasn't just a curiosity. It was something with consequences. Leaving it buried wasn't an option. Facing it was the only way forward. Carefully, they examined the exposed markings and surfaces. Daniel traced the lines with his fingers, feeling a subtle warmth where his skin touched. It was as if the object responded to attention, recognizing intent. He looked at Emily, understanding dawning in his mind. It's alive, he said slowly. Not like an animal, not like a plant, but aware. It can sense us and it knows what we want. Emily nodded. Tears streamed down her face. That's why I begged someone to help. I didn't want to face it alone. I couldn't. Not after everything I've seen. Daniel took a deep breath. We'll figure this out together. We'll understand it and we'll make sure it's safe. But we have to be careful. One wrong move and... His voice trailed off. Emily shivered. I know, and that's why I came here. I trust you. You have to trust me too. We can't let fear control us. We have to act with caution and courage. They worked together, uncovering the last parts of the object. As more of it was revealed, the intricate patterns and shapes became clearer. There was a sense of intelligence behind them, a message waiting to be understood. Daniel realized that this was more than just a buried secret. It was a record, a warning, and a key all at once. Finally, after hours of careful work, the object was fully exposed. It was unlike anything Daniel had ever imagined, smooth, dark, alive in a subtle way, and etched with markings that seemed to tell a story. Emily stepped back, her hands trembling, but relief was in her eyes. "We did it," she whispered. "We found it. We faced it, and now we can protect it. Or at least try." Daniel nodded. He felt awe, fear, and responsibility all at once. This object was not just part of the land. It was part of something larger, something that had waited years to be discovered. And now it was awake, aware, and in their care. The wind rustled through the oak tree above, carrying a faint, almost whispering sound. Daniel shivered. The ranch would never be the same again. The secret they had uncovered was powerful, mysterious, and dangerous, but they had faced it together. Whatever came next, they knew they couldn't ignore it. The buried secret had been revealed, and now the real challenge had begun. The ranch felt different the morning after they fully uncovered the object. The air was heavy, the usual sounds of birds and animals muted, as if the land itself was holding its breath. Daniel and Emily returned to the oak tree, their movements careful, almost reverent. The object lay fully exposed now, its dark surface gleaming in the soft sunlight. Emily's hands trembled as she approached. "We have to decide what to do now," she said quietly. "It can't stay here for long. Someone could find it, and then I don't know what could happen." Daniel nodded, his gaze fixed on the object. "I know, but it's not just about hiding it. We need to understand it, protect it, and make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands. That's what you came here for, right?" Emily swallowed hard. "Yes, I couldn't face it alone. I needed someone strong, someone who could think clearly. That's why I came to you." They studied the object together, tracing the strange markings and intricate patterns. Daniel realized the symbols were not random. They seemed to tell a story, a record of something important. Emily explained what little she knew. Her family had discovered it years ago, tried to bury it to keep it safe, and warned anyone who found it that it was dangerous and aware. As the day progressed, Daniel and Emily carefully lifted pieces of the object to examine them. The more they saw, the more they understood that it was alive in a unique way, responding to their touch and presence. It was not aggressive, but it was aware, intelligent, and protective of itself. Emily looked at Daniel, fear and determination in her eyes. "We need to move it. We can't leave it here. People could stumble upon it, and then everything could be lost. Or worse." Daniel agreed, though he knew the task would not be easy. They worked together, using every tool and piece of equipment on the ranch to carefully lift and transport sections of the object. It responded subtly, moving with them almost as if it trusted them. The process was slow and exhausting, but they were determined. By evening, they had secured the object in a hidden part of the ranch, away from prying eyes and the usual paths. They covered it carefully, leaving only a small portion visible for further study. Both were physically drained but emotionally alert, knowing they had accomplished something extraordinary. Emily sat down on a nearby log, letting out a long breath. "I never thought anyone would help me. I didn't know what to do, who to trust, but you. You've done more than I could ever ask." Daniel sat beside her, tired but steady. "We did it together. But this is only the beginning. Whatever this is, it's part of something bigger. We have to be cautious, and we have to protect it." The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the ranch in shades of gold and purple. Daniel looked around at the fields, the fences, and the oak tree that had hidden the secret for so long. The ranch had always been his world, a place of routine and quiet. But now it was transformed, a place of mystery, responsibility, and discovery. Emily's voice broke his thoughts. "Do you think it will stay safe here?" Daniel nodded slowly. "For now, yes, but we'll have to keep watch. We'll study it, understand it, and make sure no one else finds it. We have a duty now, Emily, not just to ourselves, but to anyone who could be affected by this." Night fell, and the ranch was silent again, but Daniel and Emily felt a new kind of connection, to each other, to the land, and to the mysterious object beneath the oak tree. It had been hidden for years, waiting for someone to uncover it, and now it was awake, aware and in their care. Emily looked up at the stars, her hands folded in her lap. "I feel hope," she said softly. "Even with the fear, I feel like we can do this together." Daniel smiled faintly. "We can. We'll face whatever comes next. And we'll make sure it's protected. That's all we can do." The night was calm, but there was a sense of something larger at work. The object beneath the oak tree had changed everything. Not just for Daniel and Emily, but for the ranch, the land, and perhaps even the world around it. As they prepared to leave the site, Daniel glanced back at the covered object. There was a faint glimmer beneath the soil, almost like it was watching, acknowledging their presence and accepting their care. A shiver ran down his spine, not of fear but of awe. Emily whispered, "It knows we mean no harm." Daniel nodded. "And that makes all the difference." They walked back toward the house, side by side, their minds heavy with the day's discoveries but filled with determination. They had faced the unknown, uncovered a secret hidden for years and survived, but they both knew this was not the end. The object would need their attention, understanding, and protection, and they would be ready. Together. As the stars shone brightly over the ranch, Daniel realized that life would never be the same. The land he had known all his life held a secret now, a living, breathing mystery that would shape the days and nights to come. And he was ready to face it with Emily by his side, whatever challenges lay ahead. The ranch, the oak tree, and the object beneath it had become a story of courage, trust, and discovery. A story that would forever change Daniel, Emily, and the quiet life they had once known. For now, the secret was safe. For now, the mystery was contained. And for now, the ranch breathed quietly under the night sky, as if it too understood that something extraordinary had happened, and that life would never be the same again.